Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Vancouver Council is set to vote on a proposed budget that includes a property tax freeze, but also some cuts and fee hikes. Is that trade-off worth it? We'll take your calls along with CBC's Justin McElroy. Plus, how to cut your own costs this holiday season. We'll have a retail analyst and financial educator with us after 12:30. And one of the most recognizable figures in Canadian sport, curling legend Colleen Jones, has died at 65. We'll remember her 4-decade-long career at 12:50. I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. There is a lot of attention on the operating budget that Vancouver City Council is voting on today. In fact, debate is underway. Last year, 6 people signed up to speak to council on the budget that year. The number this year, more than 600 people. Mayor Ken Sim and the ABC Majority Council are proposing a 0% increase to property taxes, along with budget increases for the police and fire departments. But it also plans for spending decreases to some departments, including planning, urban design, and sustainability, as well as arts, culture, and community services. It also plans for some hikes in utility and service fees. We're going to talk to CBC's Municipal Affairs reporter in a moment. We're also taking your calls. Are those fee hikes and cuts worth the property tax freeze? Call us now. Just hit pound 690 on your cell phone or dial 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. That's 604-669-3733. Or email us at bctoday@cbc.ca. If you're joining us on our TikTok Live, you can leave a comment there. And Justin McElroy joins me now live from Vancouver City Hall. Hi, Justin.
Hi, Michelle.
How are you doing in this weather? Is it fairly cold out?
It's gotten a little bit chilly, which is why I'm wearing a jacket now. And inside, councillors debating still a couple of amendments to some of the smaller pieces of the budget before they're expected to take a break for an hour. Should be sometime this afternoon that we have the final vote here, but there are a lot of different aspects of it that people are going forward or through before we have that final decision.
What's the tone been like in debate so far?
It's what you would expect. Opposition councillors are putting forward a number of amendments trying to change the budget to put in things that they would want. ABC governing councillors are defending it, putting forward their own amendments to try and tweak things that they've heard from the public over the past couple of weeks, though with no real changes to the property tax. The ABC councillors accusing the opposition of misinformation, opposition councillors accusing ABC of being heartless. It's a political budget. It's before the next election, and certainly, a little bit snippy on both sides.
Just what you'd expect in an election year, hey?
Yeah, just a little.
We'll talk about that too. The incredible interest people have had in this. The central piece is this, zero means zero slogan, right, to the property tax increase. Why is that such a priority for Mayor Ken Sim?
Well, a few reasons. Keep in mind that Sim and ABC campaigned in the 2022 election on reducing the level of property tax increases that had happened under Kennedy Stewart. Instead, what's happened over the first 3 years of their term is property taxes have gone up more than 20% at the same average rate that had happened under Stewart. So there's an incentive by them to show that the thing that they campaigned on is something that they did for their final budget. At the same time, there's a push by councillors on ABC to show that they're committed to public safeties, which is why you have this $50 million more for VPD, property tax increase freeze across the board. Then you have these cuts to other departments, as you mentioned, arts, culture, planning, sustainability. But it also leaves an opening for the opposition to say, look, this is an election year budget and these are the priorities of this city hall. Some people are going to like it, but others won't. So it creates these stark divides for this final budget that weren't really there for their first 3. And that's why you're seeing this immense interest in this budget that, as you said, more than 600 speakers over 4 days. Today, though, no speakers. It's just councillors going back and forth with amendments. But again, we should see a vote on that at some point later this afternoon.
Gosh, what did we hear from those hundreds of speakers?
I mean, as you could expect, for something like this, it's the majority of people who come out and are passionate are because they're against something like this. They spoke about what it could mean to the city to see these cuts to arts and culture, sustainability. Many of them lamented having a giant increase or 10% increase for the Vancouver police at the time that other services were having to be cut. There was also debate on terms of, if you're cutting property taxes, but at the same time, you're increasing fees for rec centers, you're increasing parking fines, you're increasing all these other places that the city gets money from. Is at the end of the day, how much is this about affordability if other things are going to see those increases? So again, when you have an election year budget, when you have so many changes that are pretty stark, it's going to bring lots of people out. Question is, did it impact ABC councillors at all? Well, we've heard a couple of amendments actually where there's been changes. One of them is to get rid of a proposed 10.5% increase to permits for sidewalk and curbside patios for restaurants. Another one is there was discussion by a deputy city manager that one of the cuts that might be seen is not replacing baby change areas in certain facilities where there's a lot of vandalism that has happened. An amendment was put forward by an ABC councillor to ensure that changing those baby change areas so that they would still be in good condition would happen. But for the most part, budget consultations are about hearing from the public. It's not necessarily changing your mind based on what you hear.
Justin McElroy is with me, and you just touched on this amendment touching on the change tables and changing areas for babies. And we know there's a kind of change in or sit in by parents today as well. They've been protesting that part of the proposed budget. Let's take some calls. We're asking you, so you've heard, what kinds of cuts or fee hikes are being proposed alongside a freeze in property tax increases. Zero means zero, according to the mayor of Vancouver. So is it worth it? You can give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, 604-669-3733. You can email bctoday@cbc.ca. I imagine people in other municipalities watching this as well. Mohammed is calling us now from Victoria. Hi, Mohammed.
Hello, thank you for taking my call.
Sure thing.
So I'm not a fan of any municipal government that says it's going to freeze property taxes. The reality in life is that we've got inflation. We've always got increases in costs of all kinds of things. And the last number of years has been higher than average and worse than average. Any municipal government that promises to freeze taxes is lying to the public as far as I'm concerned. And you've seen, your guest has already mentioned that under SIM, the property taxes have gone up the last number of years. So what happened to the promise of zero taxes? The reality is they couldn't deliver it. And even if they freeze taxes, they're going to get the money out of you some other way, and it's not going to be proportional to who should be paying the taxes.
Have you seen this in your community, Mohammed?
I've seen it when I lived in Ottawa. There were times when promises were made to reduce taxes or eliminate taxes entirely, property taxes. And the reality is you can't do that. There is no mechanism where they can do that without increasing taxes somewhere else and making people pay for it in some other way.
Mohammed, thank you very much for the call from Victoria. Our next caller now is in Vancouver, and Jerry is on the line. What do you think of the budget, and are these cuts and fee hikes worth the property tax freeze? Jerry?
Oh, definitely not. Property taxes are progressive. I mean, the more my house is worth, my income is up. And when it comes to elderly such as myself, we do get a tax break, and also we can put off paying it till we sell it. But the main thing is we have garbage collection, we have streets, we have water because of the taxes. I am looking at the arts, I am looking at swimming, I'm looking at community centers. Fees for everything are going to go up, and they are regressive. What Mr. Sims has done is he's played to the developers, but he's also played to the rich. And this is definitely a sign that you want to make it better for the wealthy, those who can afford to pay. We just cannot keep continuing to pay more to go swimming, use the parks. So no, I think it really, I can't think of the word right now, but this exemplifies a city council that is directing its budget towards the wealthy and punishing the poor. And I get very upset how many of us line up to speak, and we're never heard because they've already made up their minds. So thank you for giving me this chance, and have a good day.
You have a good day, Jerry. Thank you for the call. Justin, can you take us through some of the fee hikes that are on the table here?
Yeah, it's a lot of them because there are a lot of different fees and permits in this city. Overall, most of them are around 5 or 6% increases, what they're looking at. That includes anything from the different types of parking fines that happen, your recreation fees that happen. When you go, if you're trying to build a home and you need a permit for this or that, those all those miscellaneous things that come up of the type of things that you need to apply for. There's also been a few that people have really taken issue at, like, for example, special event fees for if you're trying to book the Vancouver Art Gallery for a type of event and you're not a farmer's market, there's a for-profit portion of that in there. The amount that you would pay might go from $100 right now to $2,500 in the future. You also have the Parks and Recreation Department saying they passed this at yesterday's budget for their own department, that some things, whether it comes from swimming fees, for example, if you're in a small group of 3 or 4 people, that might go up by 15, 20, 25% as a result of this. So part of the issue is when you're asking all these different departments to raise revenue for various places because you're trying to do this property tax freeze, they're going to look at places where they think there are either efficiencies or where they can get more money out of the general public or well-to-do people than they are right now.
And when it comes to those efficiencies, tell me about the departments that are facing budget decreases.
Well, and what we've heard so far in terms of specifics is fairly minimal because, again, remember, this budget has sort of come in at the last minute. It was only a month ago that council said that they wanted staff to put forward a budget with a 0% property tax increase instead of the 6 to 7% that was originally being planned. So right now there aren't a lot of line item specifics, but we do know that they are looking at staff cuts. They put forward the early retirement programs for people, the opportunity of buyouts in some places, but internal City Hall memos have said that up to 400 people could be laid off as a result if they're unable to get these cuts in different places. So, when the Arts and Culture Department, for example, instead of having 3 or 4 different people as planners in various fields or liaisons in different departments, you might only have 2 or 3 now. Same goes with different parts of planning or sustainability. You might see how you might trim down the number of people. There was a report about getting rid of the city's climate and sustainability department. The city says that's not accurate, but it could well be accurate that they simply don't have that as a big title header, that it gets sublimated inside a larger program within the city. So there's lots of ways that they could happen. A few amount of details at this point. A further final budget would be passed by this council in the first couple months of next year, but this would give the broad directions. And if they pass this today, it would be hard to see any scenario in which they would make major changes, and you would start seeing those staff cuts start to happen over the next few months as a result.
Justin McElroy, our CBC Municipal Affairs reporter, joins me. He is standing outside City Hall at 12th and Cambie, keeping warm with his jacket, and that's because actually Council is debating this proposed budget today, set to vote on it. They are in recess right now until 1 p.m. So Justin will continue to cover that for us. He will go inside for that. Angela is on the line now in Vancouver. We're asking you if if these plans for potential budget decreases for some departments, fee hikes, are those worth the property tax freeze? And Angela, what are your thoughts?
Absolutely not. And I won't comment on the property taxes themselves because you've had some callers in already talking about it. I feel like this mayor does not know the city of Vancouver. I mean, this is the same person that wanted to shut down Kids Pool. I almost fell over when I heard cut baby change stables. Are you insane? Like, that doesn't even make any sense. This is a vibrant city. It is full of parks and recreation and arts and culture and all these things that make it worth living here. Like, I just don't think he understands the city of Vancouver. He just doesn't get it.
Angela, thank you very much for the call. Speaking very passionately there in Vancouver. I know yesterday some of the speakers, when it came to arts and culture, were also very passionate, Justin. Can you tell me more about that as well, in terms of the reaction when it comes to what makes, perhaps, what may be being undervalued as the contributions of arts and culture in Vancouver?
Yeah, and it's a complicated subject, right? Because some people have been talking about, I'm worried about grants being cut, for example. Well, grants are not being cut in this budget. I just want to make clear on that because some people conflate the two, the grants department and the arts and culture department. But it is a big question in terms of how many people for the city are going to be working on these initiatives, are going to be trying to improve the programs available, are going to be there when these different sort of festivals come out, are trying to do something, or the amount of fees that they want to pay. And because of it being a more than 10% increase, because of the fact that there aren't a lot of details in terms of where those cuts would actually come from at this point, because it is 1 year away from election, it all allows the public to have ideas of what could happen that the mayor can't exactly refute. And while on one hand, they can be annoyed at some of the conversation that's coming out there, or saying, well, we're not cutting grants. We're still going to be doing these things in the arts and culture departments. The lack of clear answers on what will happen as a result certainly adds to the tension people have, as you heard right there.
Yeah, certainly. Dawn emailed us from West Kelowna saying, why do we have political parties at this level, our civic governments? This is just causing more divisiveness at the civic level. I want my councillor representing me, not a political party. That's Dawn in West Kelowna. And so we've been talking about this, leading into next year's municipal election. How does this set the stage for that, Justin?
I mean, if Dawn doesn't want political parties, the city of Vancouver shouldn't have a ward system where people have to get elected by 50,000 people and making it so that parties are the only way that on scale you can do things like this. There's been lots of independents over the years. No one has been elected as an independent councillor since 1986. But that historical diatribe aside, the fact remains that
I knew ward system would come up. Yeah, okay.
No, but this is an election year budget, and it's Ken Sim's last opportunity to say to the public, hey, those things that I talked about 4 years ago or 3 years ago about reducing the level of property tax increases that you gave me a massive mandate on, 50% of the vote, to nearly double Kennedy Stewart to 8 out of 10 councillors. I want to do that as you voted me in to do. He talked a lot about public safety during his campaign. He says that $50 million more for the Vancouver Police Department is part and parcel for that. So, we're hearing for people that are upset about this budget and saying that Sim doesn't understand the city. He says he's just doing what he was elected to do by the people, and that while he wasn't able to do exactly on the budget what he wanted in his first 3 years, he's now able to, as he says, right-size things. Of course, he has his own city manager in place now that he appointed, as opposed to one that was in before him. But there's lots of reasons why he and ABC Vancouver are extremely confident in this budget and believe it's going to be a winner for their vote base.
Justin, it's so good to speak with you, and I knew you could go deep into the history of civic governments. Thank you very much. We'll watch to see what comes out of the vote today at Council. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
That's CBC's Municipal Affairs reporter, Justin McElroy. One quick comment here from Kathy on the change tables, just saying that some of us survived our child rearing without change tables in public spaces. Kathy, thank you for your email. bctoday@cbc.ca is our address. As we mentioned, arts communities in Vancouver are bracing for impact following the discussion today and the vote on Vancouver Council's budget. And it does propose a 12% drop in funding. Concerns there about cuts being made with very little detail. Now, the early edition this morning spoke with leaders of 2 arts organizations. Heather Redfern is executive director of the Culch, and Clea Morey is director of operations at Still Moon Arts Society. They spoke to Stephen Quinn.
costs go up. Grants have been frozen at all levels of government for quite a long time. And so that the way that money comes in to pay those additional costs either has to be the box office or fundraising. So the grant dollars are essential. We are either in a bit of a deficit or at a break even each year. We certainly do not have any extra funds, extra reserves, anything like that. We are very paycheck to paycheck at the Gulch. So yeah, it's essential funding for us.
We've really relied a lot on the city's funding since our inception. It's one of the things that the city operating funding does for us is it's fairly reliable from year to year, unlike a lot of the funding that we get is project-based and might be, here for 12 months and you don't know if you'll get new project funding the following year. So we're a much smaller organization. Our city funding is only $20,000, but it's absolutely essential for us to be able to keep staff that lets us kind of have the continuity to keep our programs going. I echo what Heather said. The funding at other levels of government has been stagnant or decreasing. And, I want to also kind of stress in the context of Vancouver real estate prices, the cost of rent has been hugely increasing in recent years, along with, inflation in general. So when we say stagnant, really, you've got to basically, we're eating the inflation year by year. And also in this, like right now, another thing that's happening is that because of the economic uncertainty, corporate funding and individual donations are also a lot harder to come by.
Much more coverage of the vote on the City of Vancouver's proposed budget, of course, here on CBC. Yesterday on the show, we spoke to the BC Minister of Energy and Climate Solutions, Adrian Dix, and he joined Amy Bell to talk about the discussions between Alberta, Saskatchewan, and the federal government on possibly allowing a pipeline to the BC coast. Now, CBC News has learned that broad outlines of a memorandum of understanding have been agreed to by Prime Minister Mark Carney and Alberta Premier Danielle Smith, one that would give Alberta special exemptions from federal environment laws and offer political support for a pipeline. The deal is set to be formally announced at a joint news conference on Thursday. We'll bring you coverage of that. Now, we got these emails after yesterday's show. Patty writes, none of the BC residents condone nor want tanker traffic off our north coast. Pushing this agenda is only good for the lawyers that will tie up the courts for years. A huge amount of money for lawyers for another confirmation of no to exploiting BC lands or coastline. The courts will uphold Indigenous rights as they should. Aaron writes, so if there's a potential agreement on another pipeline, why wasn't David Eby and the Indigenous peoples at these talks? Very bad move on Carney and Smith's part. Talk about being stabbed in the back. Another pipeline would be a bad move. David writes from Quesnel, another pipeline investment? Canada is blind to the unlimited energy resource right under our feet. The volume of latent heat from shallow volcanic magma would provide energy enough to power Canada's electrical grid many times over. Thank you very much for your emails. You can write us anytime, bctoday@cbc.ca. .12:30 now. You're with BC Today here on CBC, live on Radio 1, CBC Television, live streaming as well. You can watch us on our website, cbc.ca/BC, on YouTube, CBC British Columbia, or use the CBC News app. I'm Michelle Elliott. Very good to be with you today. And coming up, we will talk about the life of legendary curler Colleen Jones, also a CBC personality. She has died at the age of 65. We'll remember her career coming up in about 20 minutes from now. And before that, we will talk about cutting your own costs during the holiday season. How are you saving? How are you budgeting during a time of financial uncertainty? We'll have a financial educator and speaker along with a retail analyst joining us to take your calls. Right now, it is time for a CBC News update, and here's Liam Britton.
Good afternoon. Federal Energy Minister Tim Hodgson says Ottawa will be talking to the BC government soon about a potential new oil pipeline to the coast. His remarks come after BC Premier David Eby voiced strong concerns about Alberta and Saskatchewan officials talking with Ottawa about the proposal without input from his province. Eby says BC and coastal First Nations must participate in talks about the proposal, which would require an exception to the tanker ban on the North Coast. The BC government says it's waiting for further test results to confirm a deer killed by a hunter in the Okanagan had chronic wasting disease. If the disease is confirmed, the province says it would be the first detection in BC outside a Kootenay management zone. While there is no direct evidence that the disease can be transmitted to people, the ministry says Health Canada recommends people not to eat the meat of an infected animal. And Silver Star Mountain Resort near Vernon announced today it has been purchased by U.S.-based Pacific Group Resorts. Pacific Group owns 5 other resorts across North America, including Mount Washington on Vancouver Island. Silver Star was previously the only Canadian holding of the Powder Group, also based in the U.S. And Pacific Group says no changes are expected for the coming season, and local leadership team will remain in place. And those are your CBC headlines from Vancouver.
Liam, thank you very much. That's Liam Britton in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. We're, of course, watching the voting and the debate taking place at Vancouver City Hall on that proposed budget. We have an email from Colin who writes, on those taxes and fees, start licenses on bikes to both electric and manual. Plus, they should get insurance. Also, charge people who have garages in residential areas but don't use them for cars. Finally, charge fees for crossing bridges into Vancouver. Some ideas there from Patricia writing us in Vancouver. Thanks very much for that email. BC Today at cbc.ca. And do mark your calendar for next Friday, December the 5th. That is a day where we are bringing you special programming to inspire you to donate to the food bank of your choice in BC. I'll be joined by North by Northwest host Margaret Gallagher, as always, and we'll bring you a special 3-hour packed show. We have some special guests with us, including world champion race walker Evan Dunphy, chef Bruno Felddyson from the Great Canadian Baking Show, and this season's winner too, Joe Manday, as well as teen magician Blake Alliong, who you may know from Canada's Got Talent. He's just a teenager, but he's got some tricks up his sleeve. He will be with us live here at the CBC Plaza on December 5th. You can join us here. We have a stage and you can watch us live or tune in, of course, on CBC. All of this in support of Make the Season Kind, which is our annual campaign to support food banks in BC. You can donate anytime. Just go to cbc.ca/kindbc. Click on Donate Now, and on a drop-down menu, you can choose one of the 111 food banks in BC for your donation to go to. Again, cbc.ca/kindbc, and you get a tax receipt within hours of making your donation. You're with BC Today. It's 12:34. I'm Michelle Elliott. Thanks for joining us. Well, Black Friday is just a few days away. I'm sure you've seen the ads and flyers. I just got another text to my phone reminding me. Now, that kicks off the holiday shopping season. But of course, this year brings major financial concerns and uncertainty for Canadians. So we're asking you, how are you approaching Black Friday and holiday shopping this year? How are you cutting your costs? And where do you look to find good deals? You can call us now. Just hit pound 690 on your cell phone or dial 1-800-825-5950 or 604-669-3733. Again, 604-669-3733. Our email, bctoday@cbc.ca. And we are watching your comments on our TikTok Live. I have two guests with me for this conversation. Bruce Winder is a retail analyst and author. He joins me from Toronto. And Murray Baker is manager of financial empowerment with the Family Services of Greater Vancouver. And Murray is with me here in studio. Good afternoon to you both.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Nice to see you both
thanks
again.
for having me on.
Yes, good to have you again, Bruce. Let me start with you because you've been following the analysis among retailers and what we're expecting in terms of how Canadians are plan to spend this year. So what do we know about the approach among shoppers this year?
Yeah, shoppers are a little bit cautious. I mean, we've talked a lot about something called a K-shaped spending trajectory, where folks who have done quite well over the last 5 years are spending pretty well. But a number of folks who sort of haven't done as well over the last, say, 5 years, they're spending a lot less. So we call it a K-shaped spending trajectory. And overall, when you add the two up, you know, different companies have different projections. Deloitte says spending will be up 3%. PwC says it'll be down about 10%. So I think most surveys are showing that it's going to be flat to down a little.
Wow. And how are retailers, planning or adjusting for that?
Retailers have adjusted to this. They're starting sales early. They're also sharpening their pencil on price. And something brand new for Canada, Amazon launched something called Amazon Haul, which is like a Temu, Shein, sort of AliExpress website where you buy direct from factory at incredibly low prices. It takes 2 to 3 weeks to get here. But these are the kind of things that retailers are doing, realizing that there's a large number of Canadians who are really, really having a hard time making ends meet.
On those Canadians, Murray, who are having a hard time making ends meet, what are the biggest cost challenges right now?
Well, right now, the challenges that we're seeing are housing, although housing rents have come down.
Right.
But people are still finding it very expensive because they haven't come down to the levels they were before. And certainly food insecurity is probably the biggest area that we're seeing. And even though inflation has trended down, food costs have stayed stubbornly high.
Stubbornly high. I'm sure people say, yes, I heard that. So what are the conversations people are having then about holiday spending in particular?
Yeah, and I think people are having to make choices. So they're figuring, what can we do to get around that and still have a wonderful Christmas? And I think all of us look back at our Christmases. We may not remember an expensive gift we got, but I think what we do remember is the fun times with family, playing with our cousins, our brothers and sisters. And so people can create things without having to spend a lot of money. Some people, they do a draw and everybody creates a gift. So they use one of their talents. If you're a young kid and you don't have a job, you can do something like giving your parents free babysitting, or maybe cook a dinner for them or something like that. So something that's not the consumer item that's going to go down maybe half price on Boxing Day, but something that has really meaning and value. And people will remember that for years to come.
Speaking of stubborn, money as a topic is stubbornly hard to talk about. And what are some ways people can approach that conversation? I've had this with my family as well. We've decided to do sort of a secret Santa as opposed to every single family gets a present. But how do you even broach that topic?
Well, I think it's being open and honest, saying, times are tough this year, inflation's gone up. Let's together come up with some ideas. So including all the family members and, maybe saying, okay, we put a cap on how much we spend this year. Or a lot of times, and kids have great ideas in terms of let's donate to this cause. And it may be, the SPCA they're very passionate about. It might be the food bank or a charity like what CBC is doing. So something like that where they're giving back, and that can have a real lasting impact too in terms of how we feel about it. So maybe part gift and part donation.
Oh, isn't that interesting? Bruce, it just occurs to me, as Murray mentioned, a cap on gifts. Do retailers keep that in mind? Like it may be people are planning for $20 gifts. We're going to set things along that price line.
Oh, for sure. Retailers, if you look at their website or in store, they often have sections that says gifts under $20, under $30, under $50, under $100, under $10. So yeah, retailers realize that people buy that way, and they've organized their assortments that way to help consumers shop.
My guests, Bruce Winder, retail analyst and author from Toronto, and Murray Baker, manager of financial empowerment with Family Services of Greater Vancouver. And so we're asking you, how are you approaching Black Friday and holiday shopping this year? How are you looking to cut costs? And if you're looking for good deals, where do you go to do that? You can call us 604-669-3733, 604-669-3733, or 1-800-825-5950. Again, 1-800-825-5950, or just hit pound 690 on your cell phone. We're watching your emails, bctoday@cbc.ca, and your comments on our TikTok Live. Ian is calling us from Victoria to talk about holiday spending. Hi, Ian.
Oh, hi. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
My comments are basically two. They're tangential. And I'll start out by saying I'm acknowledging that there are little ones out there who believe in Santa Claus, okay? So first off, it's like, well, remember what Christmas is about, okay? It's about family, friends getting together, share breaking bread. And if you place that as the most important aspect of it, the rest will just kind of fall into place. Now, here's the other thing. Families who are more affluent should perhaps make it clear to their kids that some of these fancier presents came from mom and dad, and these other ones came from Santa, because kids who come from less affluent families will go back to school and they'll see that, maybe get the idea that Santa was nicer to these other more affluent kids. And Santa's nice to everybody. You know, Santa loves all good children. So maybe parents be conscious of that.
Yeah.
Because it could really be important to little ones.
That's really interesting. Yeah, go ahead, Ian.
That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ian in Victoria. Keeping in mind inequality and just being more conscious of that as we get into the holiday season. I noticed also Giving Tuesday as we have this discussion. Murray, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that is important, because at school you have somebody coming with a very expensive gift, another person whose parents don't maybe have the means to do that. It sets up that inequality and feeling, why didn't, what did Santa not, as the caller said, did Santa not like me as much?
It's an interesting point.
So it's a good point, and I think that's important to instill in kids, that really the spirit of the holidays, as opposed to who gets the most expensive gift.
And I'll put out our numbers again, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. 604-669-3733. Once again, bctoday@cbc.ca. Bruce, along with, it's Black Friday, but also that comes with Buy Nothing Day. There are, competing interests here, as well as Buy Local Day. And I'm wondering how that idea of buying local and the elbows up movement is figuring into this year.
Yeah, definitely. It's a trend that a lot of folks have identified, that more Canadians, if possible, would like to buy locally, as a direct result of our trade conflict with our friends in the United States. And retailers are adapting to that too. You're probably going to see more Maple Leafs on products on shelves.
Right.
I know on Amazon, they have a whole section and they have a lot more Canadian products on Black Friday for sale. So retailers are adapting. They've read the tea leaves. They realize Canadians are looking, if possible, to buy more Canadian items.
Does that come up among your clients, Murray?
Yeah, if possible, but it is difficult. And I think some of the studies have shown there's a certain limit to how much more people will pay for Canadian. The figure I heard was something like 10%. They'll pay a little bit more, but they won't pay a lot more to support Canadian. And some people don't have the luxury of buying Canadian because they don't have that extra 10% to pay for an item.
Added resources there. So if I know you talked about other ways to share and give gifts, and perhaps creating things. But if someone is looking for deals, what's your advice for that? But planning for looking for those deals and steals.
Well, I think what's important is not to get caught up in the hype. Because
You mean don't go through all my texts from stores?
If you look at your inbox, you'll find all the retailers are sending out Black Friday, and it's turned from Black Friday into Black Friday week or Black Friday month.
Right.
So,
A month.
So realizing that, it's something like clothing, there might be some good deals, but a lot of that stuff, if it's seasonal, it's going to be marked down even more in January.
Right.
So, being mindful of that and as I say, having that budget and saying, okay, this is how much I can spend, not getting caught up in that extra. And I might add to, in terms of the consumer items, think of other ways to donate too. And, one of the things oftentimes parents, their grandparents or their aunts and uncles will give a gift and they'll say, well, I don't know what to get them, or it'd be like pajamas again. A good gift is something like contributing to your grandchild's RESP. And by doing that, not only do you get the initial donation, but you get the matching grant from the federal government too. So you're actually giving more than you even put in. So a lot of grandparents and aunts and uncles, it's a great way to give a gift that's going to have an impact long into the future.
Absolutely. A gift to the future, toward your future. Cindy is calling us now from the Kootenays. Hi, Cindy. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I am well. What's your approach to holiday spending?
Well, we always cap it. We cut out all the cousins and all that stuff. But just amongst our family,
Poor cousins.
What we've done in the past is, my kids are older now. They're all out of the house. So what we do is we save our money. Instead of spending the $100 or $150 on a gift, we put it aside, and we do the same thing for birthdays. And every second to third year, we take either a trip or an outing and make a memory instead of an actual gift. The other one is when my kids were really little, amongst my siblings and myself, I bought a tablecloth. And I sent it, and what I did is I took fabric paint and I put their little baby handprints in each corner. Then I sent it off to the next kid, and they did the same, and then the next brother or sister, and they did the same. And it was my mother's most prized possession at Christmas time. She put it out every year, and even when my kids were older, they would just go up and say, look how little my hand was. And then we did pillowcases, which you could thrift easily with fabric paint, and we put like world's greatest grandpa, world's greatest grandma, and it was my mom's best bed linen. And it was easy and it was cheap. And the kids get involved, and like, we did the tablecloth when they were babies, but we did the pillowcases when they were older.
I love that. And it's the centerpiece of the holiday.
Yep. And every year she'd put it out. My mom's passed now, but when she was still alive, she'd put it out. And even when my kids were teenagers and young adults, they'd go up and say, oh, look, our handprints. And they loved it.
Oh, that is so wonderful.
And it was very inexpensive. You could go to either Superstore or thrift a tablecloth with some fabric paint and then just wash it off their hands after you're done, and that's it.
That's it. And what a memory to be able to recreate or revisit at every gathering. Cindy, I love that. Thank you so much for the call from the Kootenays. Bruce,
have a wonderful day and Merry Christmas.
And a Merry Christmas to you. You have a great day. I wonder about that. She just mentioned, thrifting. Crafting. So using those kinds of, using that enthusiasm, how are retailers responding to that? I wonder about those. I'm seeing more and more thrift stores nowadays too.
Yeah, that's a major trend, Michelle, is the thrifting. That's started about 10 years ago, but it's become mainstream now. Some people will thrift, they'll go out and find a gift for a loved one from a thrift store because it's a unique item that's cheaper, they save the environment, there's a lot of pluses. So that's a major trend. And even some retailers now have thrifting sections within their stores. So yeah, it's something that some consumers are using quite effectively.
Yeah, we have an email here, a TikTok comment from Jesse who writes, I think people should stop buying corporate, shop local. Jesse, thank you very much for joining us on TikTok. Our number again, 1-800-825-5950. 604-669-3733. You can also just hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Our email, bctoday@cbc.ca. TikTok is CBC British Columbia. Murray, earlier you said, keep tabs on what you're doing throughout the holidays, and I want so we can avoid that shock in January when the credit card bill comes in. How do you suggest? What are some tools for us to keep tabs on our spending?
Yeah, that's a great question, and there are a number of apps out there that actually help you keep track of your spending as you go along. Another good option is just to spend with cash. So that's a great way to budget, because if you only have X number of dollars with you and you leave your cards at home, you're only going to spend up to that amount. A credit card is too easy to overspend. And
Sure.
and of course, retailers know that, and that's why they make sure they offer the ability to use credit cards.
Right.
But a cash-only approach is oftentimes good. I also suggest people use apps like Flip and Rebee that you can price compare. And some places will match. Some places will even beat the competitor's price too. So that's another way to make sure you're getting the absolute lowest price.
And in terms of paying cash, how would you make sure you don't go over either? Like, do you only take out a certain amount per shopping trip or something like that?
Yeah. Okay. So take that with you in your wallet. If you have 5 people to buy for, and it's $20 each, you have $100, and you're not going to go past that limit. Maybe take an extra $10 for the tax and the cushion, but much easier to stay within a budget than actually using credit cards. And I might add too that people that aren't familiar with budgeting, we offer free financial coaching at Family Services and the Financial Empowerment, and people can go on our website and book an appointment, and we're happy to sit down and help you work out a budget so that you don't overspend during December and end up paying the price in January.
Yeah, Family Services of Greater Vancouver is what you can search up. Jacqueline is our next caller in Vancouver. What's your approach to holiday shopping, Jacqueline?
Well, we no longer really have a lot of shopping because my kids are older teens. And so what we buy isn't really what they want. So,
they're never happy anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Like something to wear, something to take back for the cash, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But so it's good because they're happy to sleep in and just be part of holiday celebrations. But when they were younger, we had a weird problem that started where we go to like a Christian church, and my eldest at around 5 started to pray to Santa Claus. And I was like, oh no, we have totally got the parenting message wrong here. So we started finding books about who Santa was and how Santa is not a real person, but they were a real person in the olden days. And then we started as a family talking about how can we be Santa for others and be of service and that, the kindness vibe. And that's really helped, I think, because we've never said Santa lives in the North Pole and is a real person or a magic person. We've always just said, how can you be the spirit of Santa? And that's, I think, helped my kids a bit.
Oh, that is lovely. How can we be Santa for others? Bruce, Jacqueline, thank you so much for the call from Vancouver. And Bruce and Murray, thank you for getting us through the start of the holiday shopping season here. What we can keep in mind, what are ways that we can save and budget and cut our costs and perhaps not buy as much. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks very much for having us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, thank you.
Good to see you both again. Bruce Winder is retail analyst and author in Toronto. Murray Baker is manager of financial empowerment with Family Services of Greater Vancouver. You can go to their website for their advice there. It is 12:53 rather. Today we learned the sad news of curling icon Colleen Jones has died. A loss to the world of Canadian sport and, of course, here at CBC. She was the skip of 2 women's world championship teams and 6 Tournament of Hearts Canadian Women's Championships. She went on to garner many accolades, including being appointed to the Order of Canada and named to Canada's Sports Hall of Fame. Jones was also a fixture in our homes for almost 40 years, joining the CBC in 1986. Colleen Jones was 65 years old. The CBC's Tom Murphy has more on her life.
You could see it in the eyes, the intense competitor that was Colleen Jones. her unwavering focus, willing her team to victory time and time again. 6-time national curling champion, 2-time world champion.
It's just great to be on top. We worked really hard this year for this.
2-time Canadian mixed champion and world senior champion. One of the greatest curlers of all time.
Oh, I'm going faster.
And a trendsetter. She was among the first to push for higher fitness levels among all curlers. Barriers meant little to Jones, eventually coaching her own son's team at the Brier, the men's championship.
I always wanted to play in the Brier, oddly, so to be here as a coach is a dream come true.
A member of Canada's Sport Hall of Fame, she was a role model for young athletes.
It's given us friends and memories and a discipline that has stayed with us, and we're all very thankful for that, and we like to push that on to the next generation, the value of sport.
Colleen Patricia Jones.
A wife, a mother, a grandmother, and an intensely proud Nova Scotian, recognized with an Order of Canada for paving the way for women in sport and broadcasting.
Really just wanting to see what else I could do. How far can you push yourself, your mental capabilities, your technique, your ideas of trying to get better? To kind of just trying to keep chasing that was the journey I loved, almost more than the winning.
As a sports commentator and CBC journalist, it was with her heart that Jones led, telling stories with empathy and a smile that put the interviewee at such ease.
Mabel Robinson's the kind of person everyone should meet.
The audience lived vicariously through her adventures.
I'm taking a break, not because I desperately need one.
You did it! You did it! As an author, she once wrote a book all about rising to the top, only to learn how easily it can all be taken away.
Have gratitude for today.
At a recent announcement for her Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame induction, a steely, positive determination, even in the face of coping with cancer.
I think persevering in everything in life is just a character trait we all need to develop. That, you know, you might not like what happened yesterday. Today's a chance to make it better, and tomorrow hasn't even entered the world yet, so don't worry about tomorrow. Just be persevering today, be strong today.
True to form, a fighter to the end, the mark of a real champion, of living life to the fullest. Tom Murphy, CBC News, Halifax.
CBC staff and audiences will remember Colleen Jones's joy and exuberance anytime she was on screen. Curling Canada also put out a statement saying, "Thank you, Colleen, for your enduring contribution to our sport. Every shot played, every rink inspired, every life you touched. You will be deeply missed, and your legacy will forever endure on the ice and in our hearts." Colleen Jones was 65.